Situational prep was a passion of mine. All right. And there's two men responsible and two men to blame, okay, for how chaotic I am when I watch film. All right. And it's you.
You're welcome.
And it's our first guest, the one and the only Super Bowl champ, one of my favorite people in the world, let alone coaches. Head coach, Jon Gruden, everybody. Bring it. Come on. Let's go.
What an honor to be here. I look at you two cars, and I would like to take both of you out of the garage and let you guys go rip it down the field.
Hey, one of the things that we love to talk about, we're going to jump right into this, all right, is we always talk about on our show that football is super small margins. Everyone's like, how did the Panthers go and beat the Falcons? How did the so-and-so beat this team and this and that? And they're going to the playoffs. They're not. We always say the margins are so small. From a coaching perspective, the details, the execution, all of that, what keeps you up at night? Because you know that the margins are that small to win in the NFL.
Well, it's a great point. It's the contingency plan too, Derek, as you know, because a lot of times the initial plan doesn't work out. They're not blitzing like we thought they were blitzing, or they are blitzing. It's raining outside. Somebody gets hurt. You get behind in the down and distance because of a stupid penalty. You have to be able to have enough contingency planning done so you can execute that. And I think there's a big winning edge there. But, when it comes to execution, it all goes back to preparation. I mean, you got to have extensive walkthroughs, and then you got to go out and see it at speed on the practice field, repetition after repetition. And you got to go out on the field and have your guys into practice really wired to get it done, I think.
Yeah, so I think that leads right into like today's trends. Like you see teams that are doing it right, and I know as a coach, as a player, I see it, and we see it. We talk about it every Sunday. Teams that are doing it wrong. Yeah. What are some trends? I know you love trends. What are some offensive trends? What are some defensive trends that are giving some people fits maybe? What are some things that you're seeing when you're studying?
Well, I think overall, the RPO world has really crept into the NFL. Yeah. A lot of the college passing game now is not even pass protection. It's run blocking. Yeah. It's all RPO. A lot of the route running, Derek, is you'd have to really look long and hard to find a lot of great trips combinations or slot combinations or individual double moves. You don't see a lot of routes like we used to see. So I think everything is starting to shrink down. I think people are starting to catch up with a little bit of the shotgun RPO offense, the high percentage bubble screens and whatnot. But I see a lot of that. And I do see tackling is probably at an all-time low. We just don't practice tackling. Pad level is not as good as it used to be. Now, I'm trying to be one of these old negative guys, but there's a lot of things that are just a little bit different. I know it's early in the season, but football, we need to snap into it. We got to get back to some of the basic fundamentals, I think, that are missing.
I completely agree. And we used to talk about this all the time, especially with the CBA. All the players want less time. They want more time to go on vacation. There's no quarterback school anymore. There's no learning football. So we get very upset on our show, Gru, about these flashcard offenses. There's no reads. Find the one-on-one. Where's the one-on-one? They don't even know coverage to know where the one-on-one is. Where's the matchup? They don't. A lot of these young quarterbacks are, I think, at a disservice when they start going against some schemes that present them problems, and take away 1, 2, and 3. How do you find those matchups? So in your estimation, I say that it's time. I think the CBA has hurt the NFL a little bit because they're basically putting up flashcards and saying, just go 1, 2, 3 and just move on. We were trained, and obviously you trained me to understand coverage, recognize it, communicate it, then execute it, right? So when you see this wave of RPO, you see the wave of flashcards, just pure progression, no reads, no seeing the coverage. Do you think that's hurting us? Do you think it's allowing young guys to play faster? I don't want to be negative about it, but I think coaches are handcuffed that they don't have enough time to teach certain things.
Well, I think you have to ask yourself this question, honestly. What college program services a drop back passer? Yeah. I'm not talking about the guy that can keep it on the zone read and run the direct power plays and a lot of the offenses that you see. I'm talking about who services a drop back passer. 3-step, 5-step, 7-step play action passes, audible at the line of scrimmage, check with me's in the running game. A lot of people don't even have a snap count anymore, Derek. I made T-shirts, no more clapping. I can't take the clapping snap counts. I think the communication piece is being eliminated from football. I don't see the offensive line communicating like we once did. You know, I see nickel blitzes coming clean off the edge. Yes. We're not changing the point. And I am being critical because I love this. And I want to see these quarterbacks shred. And I want to see them execute at a high level. And that's one of the reasons why I love watching the Detroit Lions play, because Jared Goff is doing the things that you did. And I think things that we believe in, and it's fun to watch football.
That's what I was going to ask you, Coach, is like, who's doing it right? So the Lions obviously are a team they're playing winning football from a quarterback's perspective, old quarterback's perspective, old coach's perspective. Is there anybody else? Do you see anybody else across the league? Like it used to be there was 10 or 12 teams that we could look at and say, these guys are dialed in. Now it's like, we mentioned one. Is there another? I feel like, where's the remnant? Is there one more team doing it?
Well, I think there are. I think the three of us are just three old men that are just being grouchy here today, you know. I went out to visit the Baltimore Ravens, and what they've done with their quarterback is magnificent. They put together a system that really helps their quarterback play great. I think you got to put together an offense that really helps your quarterback play great, whoever it is. And I think Buffalo's done a great job with Josh Allen, his size, his mobility. They let him carry the ball in direct running situations. Lamar's style, they've put together a system to help him. But you throw in the team, the Lions that I just talked about, those are three teams that I really enjoy watching.
Yeah, that brings up a good point, because we talk about identity for these football teams all the time. I feel like Dallas is establishing an identity with the physicality, the way Javonte Williams is running. You know it's being coached. Yeah. They're running duo.
Yeah, I was out there in training camp. They're definitely coaching.
It's definitely. You see the intensity, the surgical mindset from Dak. Like, I'm a big fan. Like, I love watching that. When we talk about the Chiefs, this is one of your friends. So I know you guys come from the same mentality, the same old school. I love Andy Reid. I think he's one of the greatest coaches schematically coming up with stuff. But for me, what do you think their identity is? Because we have a hard time. Is it the RPOs? Is it we're going to be the deep shot play action? Are we going to get the run game going? When you see them, what is their identity? Maybe you can help us put that in a box so we can help better understand a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, right now they're a spread offensive team. You know, Kelsey is a great Hall of Fame tight end, but he's really not your typical tight end that goes into the C gap and pass protects and run blocks. It's more of a spread RPO running game. They really don't have much balance. They're not really able to run the ball and make any big runs like we're accustomed to seeing. Pacheco, Kareem Hunt, it just seems like they're running to give Mahomes a rest. Their receivers are undersized guys. I think right now they're creatively just trying to move the ball, convert third downs, and have some long possessive type drives, 10, 12, 14 plays. I think they're struggling right now. But with Andy Reid there, I think there is a big picture of how to get it done. And, I like Tampa too, Derek, not to change subject, but I love what Tampa Bay does with Baker Mayfield down here. I like the teams that are balanced. I think the more you can do, the harder you are to defend. And I think that's the problem with the Chiefs. They just don't have a whole lot of offense to defend right now in terms of running the ball, good old-fashioned play-action passes. There just isn't much of that in Kansas City right now from what I see.
All right, Coach, so since we have you here, Derek was fortunate enough. He said every time he went in the building, regardless of who was in the building, as a player, he felt like he had a chance with you because he knew that you were up all night. You were probably going to beat him in, and there were some races to the parking lot early in the morning. So I'm going to just rip through 3 or 4 coaches right now. I need you to give them some hope because when we look at these teams, it's hard. Like we talked about some of the numbers on some of these teams. It's looking bleak. Players not there. Like we talked about Andy Reid not having his horses. But I'm just going to rip through 3 names. I need you to please instill some hope. First, we're going to start with you guys' favorite, the Las Vegas Raiders. Pete Carroll. If you're Pete Carroll, what do you say to the group? How do you get this team to play better football?
Well, it's still early in his regime. Let's not forget that. I mean, it's his 3rd game. He's only been there for 3 games. We've got to get the running game going. I don't know what the running game is. It looks like they've been in the pistol single back set quite a bit. but they've got to get Ashton Genty introduced to Raider Nation. He's the 6th pick in the draft. We have to get this man going and take some pressure off our offensive line. We don't want to be pass protecting every snap. I think it all starts there, trying to get in some manageable third down situations where Brock Bowers, Jacoby Myers, Tucker, we can distribute the ball to these guys. But I think we got to get some identity running it. Defensively, we got to play better than we did against Washington. I know that. And the kicking game, we got to win that phase of that part of the game. We got killed last week by Washington, but I think Pete Carroll's upbeat, positive background that he has, I think he's got to keep that. We got to get some of these young guys to come through. And we got to get a lead, a fourth quarter lead where Max Crosby and Kuntz and these guys can rush the passer. But I think starting fast, getting the run game going somehow, some way would be a real remedy for everybody.
All right, now a team that's near and dear to my heart. I'm the only Giant in the room at this particular moment. Brian Daboll, my dear friend, needs to maybe stop going to the podium. And then we got to fix some things in the lot. There's a groundswell. Russell Wilson throws for 450 yards against the Dallas Cowboys, comes back and, I don't know, maybe it's tough to throw against Steve Spagnuolo and the Kansas City Chiefs. You guys would know that. So he has a bad day, and now everybody wants to put Jackson Dart in the game. What do you tell Brian Daboll to kind of right the ship?
Well, I would try to get the Cowboys on your schedule 5 times a year based on the coverage. No disrespect to Russ Wilson, but Derek would have thrown for 700 yards against Dallas. I mean, they blew coverages in Tampa 2, cover 4, cover 6, cover 3. Guys are wide open, Dave. I mean, they're wide open.
Yeah.
But I think, look, it's inevitable that Jackson Dart is going to play. He's a first-round pick. He had an excellent preseason. You have a young football team. You got to get this guy on the field. You're 0-3. It's inevitable that it's going to happen. Why not let this guy go out there and experience the NFL for himself? Let's get behind him. Let's start putting together some game plans, even if they're a little bit reduced, that Jackson Dart can digest and go out and execute. I think it's his time.
Love it. So Joe Burrow out. Zach Taylor is now looking at a team that probably felt like he could do some things with, but now you got a backup quarterback in there and you're trying to survive. Now we know Zach Taylor's offense has kind of gone from this, pretty basic, not basic, but West Coast-ish hybrid version to like, hey, you know what? We're going to spread the field and let Joe Burrow just figure it out. Like he's gonna get us in the right play. He's gonna manage protections. But now you got the backup quarterback in there trying to do that. So do you adapt? What do you tell Zach Taylor to try and figure this thing out in Cincinnati?
Well, again, I remember when you played with the Houston Texans. I think you got sacked 65 times, and it was just a matter of time before the hits took their toll. Joe Burrow got hit a lot, man. He gets hit a lot in this open style offense. Yeah. And Orlando Brown at left tackle, Mims at right tackle. They've got a bunch of injuries at guard. They have really struggled to run the ball. I mean, I think they're averaging 1 yard a carry, and they're throwing it a lot, and they're getting their quarterback hammered. I think they're in a tough spot. I really do. I think they got to somehow regulate the game a little bit, shorten the game, hand the ball off, get some running game going. I worry about Browning. He got hit a lot last week against Minnesota. And you guys know this. The quarterback is the only guy that can't play with a sore right shoulder or a sore right elbow. But they got to minimize the damage. The hits are adding up on these Bengal quarterbacks. They're in a tough spot.
Yeah.
Real quick, couple words for Mike McDaniel. Got all the weapons. I know we always talked about RPOs are ridiculous pass offense. All right. Ridiculous protection offense, right? They got all these RPOs. They got all these things. We all see the talent. Obviously, they've had success in the past. What can they do to get back on track? I think they play New York here real soon.
Yeah, I mean, they got such a young offensive line, Derek. You know that. They don't have a tight end. They brought in Darren Waller to be I think a guy that could really work the middle of the field. When I broke down Miami, they had only thrown 2 passes to the tight end. And if you're doubling Waddle and you're doubling Hill, let's throw some halfback choices to Achane. Let's get the tight end involved, man. But they really don't have the tight end involved in this offense. The left tackle's really a first-year starter. The left guard is a rookie. Brewer's the center. He's the only veteran in the whole mix. I don't know anything about their right guard. And it's an inexperienced offensive line without a tight end presence. So they're scrambling like a lot of us just to get a first down, just to stay on the field. But it's easy to take away a wide receiver. You know that. That's why you got to have 2 or 3 other guys that can beat certain coverages, or you're going to have a tough day at the office.
100%. And I thought one of the coolest things that I always tell David and everybody about us is it didn't matter who we had. We were just trying to find a way to win, find the matchup, right? Derek, check to this. If you gave me such great plans. I tell everybody, if I just read the tip sheets, if I slept all the way till Sunday morning and just read the tip sheets, I could go out there and win a football game with you, And that is what you're talking about. It's not just about the players. It's not just about this. You got to have more than just your star guys. You got to have role players. You got to have a guy that can run a choice. You got to have a guy that'll go over the middle. You got to have a run game. You got to have a guy that'll come in and pass protect. Now, in our first year, you're establishing a culture together, okay? We get 2 young rookie tackles. You look at me and you say, this is going to suck, man. But hey, look at me. I don't care, man. We got to score points. We got to win some games. And I won you 3 of them, all right? We won 3 that first year.
We won 3. We won 4 games.
We won 4.
Cheat yourself, man.
No, sorry. Yeah.
Don't cheat yourself.
And we never lost any more than that. We just ran out of time, man. All right? We didn't lose, all right? But my point being is there's some teams that are going through that right now. Some young quarterbacks, new situations, new coaches, all these kind of things. You got Aaron Glenn. His quarterback's knocked out in concussion protocol for the next 9 months. Who knows how long? But with the New Day CBA, you're not allowed to play, all right? But what do you tell those coaches, those teams that are sitting there? Because we ended up having a great run, and I played my best football with you, and we got better. You built around me. You helped me. What do you do in a situation with these young quarterbacks that maybe it's not going well? What do you say to them? Some of the things you said to me, obviously. What do you say to those guys right now to give them some hope that they're going to be all right?
Well, we just got to keep laying bricks, Derek. We got to keep building the foundation every day. You got to get 1% better. You got to control what you can control. And I realize your first year, your first 20 games or so, it was tough sledding. But we got Josh Jacobs, we got Alec Ingle, we got a running game. It helped us with controlling the clock and short yardage and goal line in 4 minutes. We were able to do some things. We find Darren Waller, and he reinvents himself. We find Hunter Renfrow. We put together a route tree for him. We got Henry Ruggs, who was going to be a great player, man, to give us the vertical stretch. And you just keep laying bricks. You got to have that 1% rule. I'm going to get 1% better every day. I'm going to keep accumulating knowledge. And we sell our system. We keep selling. We keep selling it. We keep staying excited, motivating our guys. And sooner or later, you'll be shocked at what happens if you just keep working and you create an unselfish group of guys. I don't know if you remember, but those 3 tight ends, we would go 13 personnel, and they'd run out there with tremendous pride. And we go out there with 11 personnel, and you see Zay Jones jumping over the cooler to get on the field. Hunter Renfrow, Ruggs, we had a great group of guys, man. And we had a quarterback, and you don't give yourself enough credit, who could handle a lot of stuff. You loved it. And if your quarterback's a great communicator and he loves football and he's really into it, you got a chance. And I would just encourage these coaches to not listen to the bullshit. Don't worry about the things that are being written about you, said about you. Just keep coaching, keep grinding, keep believing, and good things will happen.
I love that. And one of the things you hit on that we have to hit on, because we got a lot of young viewers, a lot of young high school kids, some college kids that are, here at Fresno State are really interested in what we're talking about right now. And one of the things you hit on was unselfish. We had a Pro Bowl tight end. We had a Pro Bowl receiver. We had a Pro Bowl back. We had a Pro Bowl quarterback, Pro Bowl this. We had these guys. But you said that we were an unselfish group. I remember getting in ton right in Lambeau Field, and we're going to shift down and run the ball. But I said, no. And I saw cover 0. I checked the squeaky. Foster Moreau catches it. And the most beautiful thing, which you said, did you check squeaky? I said, yes. He said, Carrier ran the under pump. I said, yeah, he did. And one of the coolest things, can you just for just 30 seconds go on about unselfishness? Because that, I think, is something that unlocks something in some teams, and we had it with our skill players.
Well, my dad drafted Steve Young when he was the personnel director of the Bucks, and Tampa Bay was dumb enough to let him leave. So we traded him to the 49ers. To make a long story short, that's where my career started. I went to the 49ers. Joe Montana was the quarterback, and Steve was the backup. And Steve Young sat there, and he was miserable and upset every day because he wanted to play. And a lot of teams, they wanted to trade for Steve, but Steve wouldn't leave because Steve wanted to play in that 49er offense. He wanted to be in that system. So he worked hard on the scout team. He worked hard in the weight room. He knew one day he was going to get a chance to play in that system with those players and that coach. And guess what happened when Joe did get hurt? Steve took over, went to the Hall of Fame, won a Super Bowl championship. But I saw a guy that had incredible unselfishness. Now, he was a bitter, mean guy sometimes because he wanted to play, but he handled it with class. He kept working. He kept grinding. I think today now you see guys that are transferring to another school, then another school, then another school, and they're never happy. They never find what they're looking for. Sometimes you got to make it happen yourself, and you got to keep yourself in the same environment with the same guys in the same system. And sooner or later, opportunity will knock. And when it does, you slam that door down. And I think you guys know what I'm talking about. You guys had plenty of chances to leave Fresno, I'm sure. Yeah. And I would be interested to ask you two Cars, if I came back and got one of these big college jobs and I offered both of you guys $1 million to leave Fresno, would you take the money or would you stay in Fresno for your $25,000 scholarship?
Hey,
what would you do? What would you guys do?
I'll see you there.
Hey,
see you tomorrow.
I am a Bulldog through and through, but I always said there's one man I'll play for, and that's Jon Gruden.
Let me tell you another story. I'm driving around the practice field with Pat Hill, and he's got me on the phone with Ozzie Newsome, with Bill Belichick, trying to convince me to stay. Now, look at the teams that I was about to go to. They didn't have money like that. So it's a different world. I was trying to feed a young wife, a child who's sitting over here. They needed some food on the table, right? So I'm like, right. I would have been gone. Speaking of knocking on the door, you met this young man, right? First impressions, right? He comes over to your TV show. You guys throw the ball around. You get a feel for him. But then you get a chance.
I broke his GoPros. I broke his GoPros.
I go out. You did. I remember that in the nets. I go out to see him in Las Vegas, and he goes, "Hey, you see that house right there? That's Jon Gruden. Jon Gruden moved in 2 doors down from me." I'm like, what is happening? The CBA doesn't exist anymore? Like, is that... You talk about handing a tip sheet to a guy. I mean, you don't have to email it to him. You can just walk it over to him. What was that like? That was that relationship. I mean, that's a brilliant move. That some would say that's Patriot-esque.
It was great. I'll tell you something. It was great. That's one of the reasons I came back to coach, because I knew I could coach Derek Carr. I had him on my quarterback show at ESPN, and I knew I could really have some fun coaching Derek Carr. So when I did move to Vegas, I didn't realize Derek had already bought one of the nicest houses in the whole neighborhood. I could just see his house, and I'm thinking, I'm going to build a house bigger than his. That's what my mindset was. But then I saw the cars Derek was driving. I said, okay, I've met my match.
That's so good. All right, so that's great. So I always believe, and I tell people, like, I like talking about quarterback superpowers, and some guys they're very clear. It's obvious. It's physical. It's Josh Allen doing his thing, throwing the ball 1,000 miles an hour. I would always say that Derek's superpower was his mind and his ability to understand what was happening at the line of scrimmage, to kind of bail out, not bail out the offensive play caller, but to get him in the right play, to make sure we never snap the ball into a bad look. What did you like? What was Derek's superpower for you? What was the thing that you said, this guy can run my offense better than anybody else?
Yeah, he had a photographic memory. He could remember things I said 2 years ago. He had an incredible ability to take a lot of information and process it really fast. Probably the best communicator that I ever coached, without a doubt. He could be in the shotgun, getting ready to go through the count. Set up, blue 85. He said, hey, bang, you going to bang that? Bang R right there. And then he'd tell the back, hey, you got a 2x2 check down. Be ready to scan this. Silva, set up. Then he'd drop back and execute his assignments. He was a coach on the field. He was excited about every aspect of our football. And I used to think it was fake, but it was real. This guy would come with a tail wagging and walkthroughs. He'd be beat up from the previous game, asking great questions, even though he knew the answer, trying to stimulate interest in our crowd. And I'll tell you this too, the funniest thing was Derek was a great leader. He didn't cuss and yell at the players a lot either. He did it in a very positive, constructive way. There were times I'd say, hey, Derek, I'm going to get on your butt today. I am going to chew you out bad because that'll give him the freedom to really start chewing out some of the guys I wanted to be chewed out. So I would start yelling at him, and it was bad. I'd be on the field with my walkie-talkie, screaming at him, throwing my visor, and Derek would start yelling at the players. It was really pretty cool. We had a great, trustworthy relationship. I trusted him with everything. And I think that's something you got to have with your quarterback. It's not the plays, it's how you practice the plays. It's not the preparation, it's how you present the preparation. And I think, with Derek, I always felt we were going to go out there and we were going to look as good as we possibly could with him at quarterback.
Well, thank you guys. Goodness gracious.
Come on, man.
Let's get to this, okay? Because this is right on par with, Gru would always give me some compliments. We'd go to dinner, him and Cindy, me and Heather. But as soon as the compliments started getting too much, he'd get at me a little bit in front of my wife.
Can't pump you up too much.
Can't pump me up too much. And Cindy would smack him like, hey, stop it. And Heather's dying laughing. I'm dying laughing. Yep. One of my favorites, okay, and you'll remember this multiple times. He said, hey, Carr, you do that again, I'm a spank Deacon, man. He told me he was going to spank my kid if I did it again.
The funny thing is, too, Dave, is Derek, our goal was to complete 70% in the NFL, complete 70%. He did that. He completed almost 71% of his passes, threw for well over 4,000 yards. It was awesome. But I remember when he came into the offseason, I had the 29% of his passes that were incomplete, and there were several passes on there. Had he completed them, he would have completed 74 or 75%. But I think with your quarterback, with your team, with your players, you got to have a relationship that's good enough where you can challenge these guys. I want to complete every pass. I want to shred our defense today. I want to rip them apart. I want to challenge this quarterback. Sometimes you got to tick them off a little. Sometimes you got to make them laugh. But at the same time, you got to push them to be great, because there's a big difference between good and great. And it's just a shame that we can't still be out there working, because we were off to a pretty good start that last year.
Yes, we were. And this brings up something that I just want to give credit to Coach Gruden, because everyone sees the Chucky. Everyone sees you yelling at the refs, and everyone it's funny, right? It's hilarious, all those things. We think it's awesome. You and I yelling at each other, all that stuff. But what people don't see is his love for his players. And I tell people this, like, man, your guys' team was so close. So everyone in that locker room knew what their role was, and they had love for their role because they knew the guy giving them the role loved them.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you. Is that the culture? Is that what you do? Is you work so tirelessly, but you love the players?
100%. Like, when I tell you, I knew that I knew. He told me he loved me more than some family members. Yeah. Like he still does, And
you try to create a culture. And I think we did try to hire a good coaching staff, a good support staff, great strength staff to service the players. That's what coaches do. We service players. And, sometimes I didn't do as good a job as I wish I did, but I sure do miss being with those guys in the locker, and we had a blast.
Let me ask you about that, since you mentioned it. So your last year together, you guys were on a run. Let me ask. I'm just going to drop a term out here. I don't see how you guys both respond to this. T96 Aerosmith. Tell me about T96 Aerosmith.
I'll start this one because the whole thing just happened, but our whole team loves Gru.
Yeah.
We play the Eagles. Mm-hmm. Throw a touchdown on T96 Aerosmith. He installs this play. It was probably 2-3 years before we even run it. Like, this thing is in the burner, man. This thing is starting to get a little crisp. Yeah. It's starting to get a little crisp. It's been in the burner for a while, and I've run this play 1,000 times, waiting for that right moment. Ole calls it in the game, and I remember, I'll let you finish, but I remember after that game, the only thing on my mind on the drive home is I got to walk over to Gru's house and tell him it was Aerosmith. But
I love that.
Yeah. I know. I just I get all teared up even thinking about that. That was a great, great time. That team went to the playoffs. I know we lost to Cincinnati in the wild card game, but you just sometimes wonder what could have happened had we, been able to keep that band together. But that was a great year. That was a good offensive football team. And T96 Aerosmith. That was one of those late night triple coffee grinds, man. I'm glad we got some use out of that play.
All right, so I'm on this guy. It was we talked about before we even turned these cameras on. He could still play. Like, don't let him trick anybody out there. Like, he's ready. So he said he would have to be healthy, And it would have to be an opportunity to win a Super Bowl. And I know that's why we all play this game, is to win a Super Bowl. So I'm going to ask you, Coach, what would it take? What would it take to get you back in to the saddle?
Well, just take an opportunity. I mean, I'm here working. If you saw what I do here every day, I'm preparing myself to do it. So we'll see what happens. I'm just preparing myself in case opportunity knocks. But if it doesn't, I have a good gig. I'm having a lot of fun, and I'm still meeting with a lot of coaches, a lot of players behind the scenes, and it's been awesome. But if I do get that opportunity, I will be out there in Fresno looking for you, Derek. So I want to see if you can get off the spot and still make some of those awkward delivery throws in tight windows. That's what I'm looking for.
Hey, I tell my kids every day, it's never good enough, man. So I've been working, man.
Trust me, I've seen with the 5th and 6th graders in the flag football, and it's never good enough. And these kids are just looking at him like, man, this is a different level that I was not ready for.
It's the best.
How about Marcus Mariota? I mean, let's not end the show talking about him. I mean, I bring Marcus into Vegas to compete with Derek and maybe give us a different venue of offense to use. What he did against the Raiders is unbelievable, man. He missed a training camp. How about Carson Wentz? 6 straight years he's been a starter for a different team. But that just goes to show you, man, it's hard to find a quarterback that can go into a locker room and go out there on game day and win a football game. It's not as easy as people think.
That's right.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, I love you, man. You know that. Tell Cindy we love her. This is the last question, I promise. Thank you for joining us. But who in their prime can bench more, you or Deuce Gruden?
Oh, don't even ask me that, man. Deuce is a machine. Try to put a picture of him up there. I think he's like 475 now.
Bro, that's insane.
Insane. Gru, I love you, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Coach. I appreciate
guys.
it, man.
Have a great
week.
Got it.
Absolutely.
Yep.
You too.